Hello, this is Jonathan Munoz, and today we're gonna talk about cars. Residents need cars, and especially if you're coming from a different country and this is your first time here and you don't have credit or a history of good credit, then how are you gonna get a car? So this is what happened to me when I came first here. I didn't know that I would really need a car so bad that it would become a barrier for me to be able to do a good rotation. So I ended up buying a very cheap car for like $2,000. I thought I was getting into a big deal, a great deal, and uh, ended up happening that the car broke down in a month, and it was super expensive to repair. Ended up selling that car for like $300 just for pieces, and had to rent a bike for about 3 months and save money to buy a newer car, not new but newer than the previous one. Overall, it was a very painful experience because during residency, not all your rotations are going to be at the same hospital. Most of your rotations, or some of your rotations at least, are going to be far away. And we're talking 3, 4 miles. And it's not something that you can do walking, it's not something that you can do riding a bike, unless you want to get all sweaty to your rotations. Um, if you're lucky, then maybe there is transportation around your area. But if you're in a state that doesn't have good transportation system that is reliable, like for example in this area of California, transportation exists, but it's not reliable, and it takes forever to get to places. And sometimes the buses don't even appear. So um, I think that your best bet is to have a plan ahead of coming here for residency or for your rotations. Some of you may have the money to buy a decent car when just arriving here, but some of you may not. So hopefully you end up at a place that has good transportation system so you can manage for the first months before buying a car. But if not, at least you have a plan ahead of time with what I'm going to talk to you about. So you have a couple of options. You can buy a used car, and the we're talking about deals that come through Craigslist, deals that happen that you were walking on the street and then you saw a car for sale, and the deal seems good. Hopefully, you know a little bit about mechanics and how a car works, so you can identify some problems. Of course, you have to ride the car and see if there's no weird sounds coming down. So that may cost you about $3,000 to $7,000. Those payments are cash because you're doing a person-to-person transaction, and there's no one financing this. So I'm pretty sure you can find a good deal for $2,000. You just have to know something about cars so you're not getting screwed by this person. Um, so look into those deals. Maybe you find something on $2,000 to $3,000. Who knows? People are selling their old Hondas or old Toyotas for as low as 2,000. There's even a brand that used to exist. It was the Pontiac or the Saturn, and those now are discontinued. So people that owns those cars are selling them for cheap, and those cars, there's nothing wrong about it. It's just that if they break down, no one can fix them because the companies that manufacture these cars are no longer in service. So you can still find cheap cars if you do person-to-person buying using Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp. You can find cars, yeah, but make sure you're not getting into a bad deal. Okay, so that's the initial option. Um, the other one is that you can lease a car. So leasing a car involves having credit. What is credit? Credit means that in in the US system, there is a way for you to be considered a good possible person to do business with or a bad person to do business with. And that's based on your credit history, the amount of transactions that you have made using your credit card, how often do you pay your bills and do you pay in time. Now, if you're coming from a different country, you don't have any of that, so your credit score is zero. Now you have to start building that. So if you're going to lease a car, first you need a credit card, and you need to buy stuff on that credit card and make payments right on time. You need to pay your rent on time, and by the time that you're ready to lease a car, and then they know you have a credit score, they can finance it. Now, this is a little harder to do than say, but there are good options for financing a car. Usually, you're gonna finance a car that is new. So, as a resident, you cannot finance a big expensive car. You can finance a very cheap, very simple car. For example, the a Toyota, Honda, the lower price car that you could, so your monthly payments are not more than $200 or $300. So that's leasing a car. It's a little harder, and I'm gonna explain why. Next, the other option is renting a car. That's the most expensive one. You do that through companies like Hertz. Um, so basically, you pay to use a car for a month. That could cost up to $600, $700, and I wouldn't suggest that. The next option is that you email your residency coordinator ahead of time and ask her if she knows or he knows if there's any resident that is selling their cars now that they are leaving, now that they are moving into their careers, and they may be buying a different car. Maybe they will be able to sell you their cars for cheap. So that's an option. And so the main problem with going back to leasing a car, leasing is great. Leasing means that you're not going to own the car, you're just going to use the car. So when you lease or buy a new car, the car, if you're not paying 100% of the price of the car has to be financed. Now, in some situations, the financing will happen through the car company itself, but you can also request that the car is financed by your bank, and that's the best way to do it if you're a resident. Why? Because banks have they have what's called physician loans or physician ways to pay. I would say some 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 arrangements for physicians, and they once you have a bank that knows about that you're a physician and you're just starting, um, they will accommodate you on. They will trust you. They will trust you, and they will say, "Okay, I'll finance your car." Their interest rate is a little higher, but someone is financing your car at least. And if you don't have any money, like I didn't, I will have to go through a bank and finance it. It's safe. It's a little more expensive, but overall it gets you the car. So look into once you come here and open a credit card, look into those big banks: Chase, Bank of America, Citi. Look into them, and when you open the credit card, try to talk to a representative and ask them if they know about working with physicians, and tell them your situation. Tell them, I'm going to look into buying into leasing a car. Will you be able to finance me? Or I'm going to look into buying a car. Buying a car wouldn't be that easy, but leasing is easier with the bank as your financing company. So those are the options that you have. You do need a car. I would say you do need a car unless you are doing these rotations in New York or cities that have a good transportation system. Here in California, you will definitely need a car. Riding a bike, uh, maybe an option. A motorcycle, a little bit dangerous. Um, but I will start. But the time when you arrive to the state or to the area that you're going to do residency, if you're not able to do any of these situations, any of these options, um, or you don't have the money right away, I will start by finding housing or an apartment very close to the hospital that you will be, because that way you can walk at least. For 1 week or 2 weeks, your initial rotations will be at the hospital or at your institution. After that, the rotations will be spread into offices, into other places. But at least for the first 2 or 3 weeks, you will be very close to the hospital. So maybe looking into renting a house or an apartment close to your hospital at the beginning, so you wait for your first two paychecks to put it down for a car, and or you could use a small bike. So that's an option, but yes, a car is necessary. And as a resident, you cannot buy an expensive car unless you have money. And some people will ask, it's very common for some doctors to say, oh, yes, buy a newer car and deduct it on your taxes. On a J1 or an H1B visa, you're not able to deduct or take expenses on your taxes. That is reserved for physicians that have a business name or a business account on their taxing, on their filing. So for you as a J1 W2 employer, you don't have that option. So that is my advice for this topic. If you have more questions, please leave a message.